But I own a dream. I own a dream of. Well, I was dreaming about playing against great players and stuff. But I wanted to get my education. I don't know what it was. I don't know what it was. All through high school, all of my coaches ever talking about was finishing college and getting a job, getting a good job. But but you had to be a good athlete and stuff, you know. And I wanted to be a great athlete, but also I wanted to be able to get a job. So I had a little different. I had a little different take on it, but it worked out fine because I was always motivated. I stayed in the gymnasium because I didn't want anybody to take my scholarship. Yeah. So all of a sudden I got good. And everybody wondered why. All my friends would go out with their girlfriends and they talk and stuff like that, you know, and I never went out, man. I was always in the gym.
Well, very much like Arthur's story. Very much like Arthur's story as well. I mean, you were so focused and so you know, there was just no. It was unrelenting, and it's really the psychology of a young athlete, especially, is to not even accept the concept of failure ever, never. Don't even think about that. Yet, life is full of failure. And one of the great things about the film, again, Gordon, is that it exposes both sides of this dream, as you mentioned before, of certainly not any failure at all, absolutely not, but rather the idea of not achieving the goal that you set out as an amateur athlete, that, you know, in the end, you end up not achieving that goal, and you feel as if, although your life is still ahead of you, right? You're so young. You're just entering college, right? And yet you feel as if the whole world has just collapsed around you, where you just, like, you're turning away from it, yet you're entering into a whole life as a young man, and yet you're just turned away from something that everybody else seems to think, oh gosh, if only you would have stuck that out a little bit longer.
One of the things that we knew we didn't want to do, and that's not the kind of film we make, was one of these kind of exposés. Oh, look at these poor kids, how they're inner city kids, they're exploited, and they have this dream, and it's all unrealistic. And what we wanted to do was hold that balance between, no, basketball really did give them something, and athletics gave them something, and provides a certain kind of discipline and focus and joy of the game. And we didn't want to take that out of it. At the same time, you want to kind of deal with the reality of what happens in people's lives. And it's both are true. You know, in America, we kind of hate having any kind of contradiction. It's got to be one thing or the other. And so in Hoop Dreams, we really tried to keep that balance. And the filmmakers were all guys who loved basketball. They weren't there to sort of say, oh, this is a terrible thing. On the other hand, you see some of the dark sides of it when you went off to school, to that first school, you know, where you're like, and you know, you're like one of the few African-American kids there. You're there to play basketball, and you can really kind of smell it, that's what's happening, you know, and it's, you know, so there are these aspects of it that do need to be criticized, but I think you have to, I mean, Hoop Dreams is a story about families and about people, young men growing up. It's your classic, in a sense, coming of age story.
And you know, Bob, you know, in terms of community and where community goes, what communities need, the role that professional athletics can play and amateur athletics can play in building community. Do you see that as a wholly positive, or do you see some of the potential hazards of the dream of being a superstar athlete and all that entails now, as you spoke to it earlier, that it didn't entail back in this
well, I really think it's very important for young kids that have dreams and stuff, because every person that I know of that has accomplished anything in life, it all started out with the dream, but they also have to put everything in perspective. They must think education first, sports second, because the average NBA player is only going to play 3 years. The average NFL football player, 2 years in the NFL. And they also must realize that when you reach the age of 30 max, you're considered an old man or an old lady in the world of sports. I played 12 years, and you know what? It all seemed like a dream. It all seemed like a dream. Then it come and it goes go like that. And I cannot remember the first basket I made or the last basket I made. But since I've been out in the community speaking to the young kids and telling them the realities of life, life and stuff. You know, I can almost remember every speech I made, almost every face in those audiences.
Yeah.
You know, young kids just gravitate towards me and stuff, and they never forget what I tell them, what I have to say to them and stuff, because I talk to them and stuff.
Yeah,
you know,
well, and again, what Hoop Dreams captures in both of these elements, I mean, Michael Jordan is playing in the mid-90s just a few blocks away from your home, Arthur, you know, and Williams' home as well. When Spike Lee said what he said at the Nike camp about how the you know, how the industry itself sees you as valuable only with regard to your ability to achieve excellence on the court, and then they're going to chew you up and spit you out.
Right.
And that race and class have everything to do with this, and don't ever forget it.
Right.
I don't think there was ever a follow-up with you personally as to how you felt about that. I'm wondering, at that point in your life, you were 15, 16 years old.
Yeah,
it was just about, that was
coming to my senior year.
It's the National All-American Camp that, I'm wondering what you were thinking at that moment.
Well, at that point, when he said that, it was just as another motivational speaker, you know, a superstar to us, was just coming in, giving us his view on how he sees college basketball and high school basketball, how he sees, you know, them looking at us as, you know, pieces of meat of just athletic people just coming to our school to help us win. And that was his view of kind of translating it to us. But my view of going through that process, I understood it already. I understood that it was, you know, it was my love of basketball that got me to a scholarship. It got me to being looked at as a piece of meat, and I understood that already. That's why I never, you know, take for granted of that. Well, they were, you know, we setting these kids up for failure, and you know, all they doing is just looking at you as a piece of meat and bringing you in, and just using you. And if you have an injury, you know, they won't even pay for your education. Well, that's where you got to go in thinking education first, like Mr. Love said.
Yes.
I always thought that if I have an injury or anything, that I'm going to be able to stay in school for education. And that was one thing that after the film and later on in a college that I really started understanding that I can't do anything without education. If this basketball thing don't work out, which I'm trying to play semi-pro at that time, it never worked out. But I always, you know, can go back to my education. I always, you know, radio and television, film. That was my, you know, major in school. Being notarized and getting, you know, opportunities from commercials and different films from being in Hoop Dreams.
Absolutely.
That's what kind of altered my whole perception of making this dream happen in the NBA. That other things start happening to me, other opportunities, and I was like, well, I'm not going to just let the NBA. When those opportunities happened,
did you feel like the basketball was more of a job, and these other opportunities were more of intrinsic interest to you, much more personally interesting to you?
I never thought basketball was a job. I thought it was my love and my passion. I loved to do it. I wouldn't be scared on any stage to play this game. I loved it. So all the other things were just added bonuses. I loved it. I reveled in it. Like, oh, Larry Bird and Grant Hill want you to do a commercial at WYCC. What? Oh, man.
And using that experience then to even, you know, motivate you into this next level in your life, which we're happy to see.
And
we're
the
very
next level
happy to
would
see.
be the same thing as Mr. Love is doing, educating young people, hitting it home to them every day that it's education, and it's more about education now because they're cutting out all the CPS programs.
Yes.
So you have to be hungrier than the next 2, 3, 5 people to want to further yourself.